After an exciting win to start the weekend for the Atlanta Braves, it was downhill from that as they drop a series to the Cardinals, lose Max Fried to the injured list, lose Ozzie Albies to the injured list. How do the Braves respond to this? What does it mean for the trade deadline? We'll talk about all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. I'm sure you have many right now after this past weekend. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you are new. Hit that thumbs up button so others can find us. And if you're listening on the audio version, please leave me a 5-star review. And thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. If you're an everydayer, let me know down in the comment section below. But we have a lot to talk about on today's podcast. Obviously, the series loss to the Cardinals, we'll touch on that. But the Max Fried injury news, that changes a lot as we gear up for the trade deadline. Ozzie Albies getting hurt on a play that should never have happened in the finale of the weekend. What does that mean going forward? Do we see Nacho Alvarez get a chance now? Do we see Alex have to act fast to go find somebody? We'll get into all that. Obviously, it's Minors Monday as well. Talk about some of the draft signings. The Braves lock up Cam Caminiti for slot value. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. So there are some positives, but they're very hard to find after a rough weekend for the Atlanta Braves. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Let's start with the big news of the day. Max Fried going on the 15-day injured list with forearm neuritis, which basically, from what I understand, it's just nerve irritation in his forearm. Now, Max said after the game on Sunday, as he was interviewed, that it was a sensory nerve. So I don't know if that's any different than any major nerve in your body. I would assume so. He seemed to sound like that was a good thing to downplay the situation, said it just felt like a burning sensation in the nerve there. So nothing wrong structurally. And if you're looking at the good news here, the MRI showed that there was no soft tissue damage, nothing wrong with the ligament, the tendon, the muscle. So that is all very good news. What's not good news is you're losing one of your best starters. It's another injury to somebody who lost a lot of time last year to injuries. And even though the team's downplaying it, Max Fried is downplaying it, it's not good. And the plan right now is that he's essentially going to be shut down until that goes away. Could it be a week? Could it be 2 weeks? Who knows? And that leaves a lot up in the air. And you only have, 9 days now until the trade deadline. And you have to decide what you're going to do. I want to go back a step further. He said he felt this while warming up for the All-Star game. Didn't think it was anything major, anything to keep him from throwing. Why push it, though, is what I don't understand. And I get it. And his comments on Sunday, make sense. Every player, every pitcher at this point in the season especially is dealing with something. But it's an all-star game. It's an exhibition. It's why I talked about before the all-star game, I hope our pitchers don't throw. And I was glad that Chris Sale wasn't going to throw. And look, this injury maybe happens either way. It probably happens either way. But it's just why? Why push it? If you feel anything in an exhibition game, why? I don't understand that. And you look at the Cardinals closer, Ryan Helsley, who ended up pitching on Sunday. He was in the All-Star game, and he said he wasn't going to pitch because he felt a little something and didn't want to push it. Good on you, Ryan Helsley. Max Fried, why would you not do the same thing? And I understand, look, you're warming up to go into the game. It would throw everything out of whack. Everybody would be wondering, where's Max Fried? I don't care. I don't care. I just, again, it probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. This was probably going to be something that he was going to deal with anyway. But just why push it in an all-star game? If you feel anything in an all-star game, especially right before you're about to throw, just don't go into it. Just they can figure something else out. There's always way too many pitchers. I mean, Ronaldo Lopez got to face one batter. There's way too many pitchers. in this game anyway. Let somebody else figure it out. They can get a bullpen arm up pretty quickly. Shoot, you can delay the game. It's an exhibition. If you have to, just why push it? So that's somewhat frustrating. And look, I understand Max Fried's part of it. He's already getting warmed up. Didn't want to make too much of a deal of it. And again, it was probably going to happen either way, but that's just somewhat frustrating. And you get two examples of it in this same series. Like I said, with Halsey, who felt a little bit something, said, okay, I'm not going to pitch. And then Max Fried, who felt a little something, said, okay, I'm just going to pitch through it anyway. And now here we are going on the 15-day injured list. But again, doesn't seem to be anything major. And he's just shut down until that irritation goes away. So still hoping that he's able to come back and pitch most of the second half. But it leaves a big question mark for the Braves starting rotation. We talked about the trade deadline the past several weeks when talking about it. And I've said, I don't think there's a need to go out and get a starting pitcher at the deadline. I don't think it is a priority over what you need offensively. But that's all predicated on Max Fried and particularly Chris Sale being healthy. But now that you know one of those guys isn't healthy at the moment, and look, he could come back and be healthy and be fine. That is a possibility. But with only 9 days to figure that out, I don't think you can take a chance. I think starting pitcher has to shoot up the priority list for the trade deadline. And look, I don't think you're going to go out and get a top of the rotation arm. You're not going to get a Garrett Crochet. You're probably not even going to get a Jack Flaherty, who's going to be, one of the top starting pitchers available at the trade deadline. I think maybe best case scenario, you're talking about an Eric Fetty type, somebody who's a mid-rotation, maybe a 3 or 4 type of starter. But I think at the very least now, you do have to go get one of those guys to give you some insurance in case Max Fried's not able to come back. And look, none of those guys are going to replace Max Fried, but I think you need it at least for depth down the stretch. And in case, Fried or, somebody else gets injured the rest of the way. With the way this season is going, it certainly is a possibility. So I now do believe the Braves have to go out and find a starting pitcher at the trade deadline, along with finding, another bat for the outfield. Those are now 2 big priorities for Alex Anthopoulos as we are, again, under 10 days away from the MLB trade deadline. Another part of this, maybe we can get into more in the offseason, but go ahead and bring it up now. What does this mean for Max Fried in the offseason? The year that he was having, if he comes out of this season healthy, I think he's getting a 5 or 6 year deal. But you have another hiccup like this in the forearm area, even though, again, downplaying it, saying it's just a sensory nerve, but it is in that area. That's a pretty big red flag, I think, for a lot of teams. For a pitcher who's going into their 30s, what type of contract is he looking like now? I think this takes a hit on what he could have potentially gotten in free agency had he stayed healthy all year and continued to pitch like he has been. Does this open up the possibility for him to come back to the Braves? I think the Braves have to be worried about those same risks as well. But I think it does play into what Max Fried's free agency looks like, that he's now had another injury in the forearm area. Whatever you want to say about it, downplay it all you want to, I think this does have somewhat of an impact on him. But what does this mean for the current rotation? You're going to need more out of Schwellenbach. I think they've already asked for a lot from him. You're going to need guys like Elder, probably Alan Winans, Dylan Dodd, who they called up, AJ Smith-Shawver making his way back, Ian Anderson as well. Even if you do go out and get somebody, those guys are going to have to step up, and it puts a lot more pressure on Sale and Lopez to, again, stay healthy and continue to pitch the way that they have been. But that wasn't the only injury from the weekend. Why, Travis d'Arnaud, do we continue to throw the ball through on first and third with 2 outs? I don't understand it. Sean Murphy, I could understand a little bit more. He's got a cannon. He has a really good chance of throwing that runner out. And Travis d'Arnaud's done okay in that, but still, just why? Why throw that ball? We've done it so many times this year, and more often than not, it just does not work out, and it leads to the other team scoring a free run. But he throws it through, and not only does the ball get to center field, score a run, but Ozzie's hand gets caught up on the runner in the process, and he leaves the game immediately. I mean, you look at Ozzie's reaction when the runner's shoulder clips his hand and takes his hand with him. He knew immediately something was wrong, and so he leaves the game. At the time I'm recording this Sunday afternoon, we don't know the full extent of the injury, so keep an update for that. I'll probably do a short on YouTube if we figure out exactly what that's going to be. I'll also be checking X throughout this, and me and Grant will be back on later on Sunday night. Well, you're listening to this Monday morning, but we'll probably get more information on that. But as it stands now, after the game on Sunday, he is going on the injured list, and Snit said it's not good. So I'm expecting it to be a lengthy absence for Ozzie Albies. I almost think at this point, you got to go give Nacho a chance. If for anything else, maybe to try and provide a spark for this team, for this lineup, get a fresh face up here, a fresh player, and a guy that's been hitting really, really well at AAA. And maybe you just ride that hot hand. I'm going to talk more about Nacho in a second as they're making a position change with him, apparently. And a lot of people were wondering why. But if not Nacho, the other options are Zach Short. We've kind of been down that road already, or Luke Williams. So it's not great right now with Ozzie Albies, again, potentially looking at a lengthy absence. So bad weekend for the Braves. You were hoping to come out of the break with some momentum. You had that first win of the weekend with Eddie Rosario's late heroics and then winning it in extra innings. You felt like, okay, maybe this team's going to turn things around. Things are starting to change. And even on the loss in game 2, you saw the home runs. You said, okay, the home runs are coming. Now we just got to get back to getting some good pitching. And then you drop the finale. You lose Max Fried and Ozzie Albies to the injured list with all the other injuries they've dealt with this year. And now the vibes just feel really bad on this team at the moment. Things can certainly change pretty quickly, especially with the trade deadline. The vibes can change very quickly, as we saw in 2021. But at this moment, with this weekend, going into the second half, it feels like more of the same from the first half. It just feels like this season is cursed for the Atlanta Braves, with no other way to really put it. That's just how it feels right now. All right, next we'll get into that series a little bit more. We'll also get through Minors Monday, and then we'll wrap things up looking at the draft signings and preparing you for the Reds series coming up this week. We'll get into all that here next. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. If you enjoy listening to sports all day in the background while you work or do things around the house, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today is a 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you with the biggest stories from all the major sports. You can find it on YouTube or in the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm going to get into some of the highlights of the weekend, or the lowlights, if you will. It's a series loss to the Cardinals, and this was disappointing for several reasons. Mainly more because they feel like the better team. I mean, you look at it now, and you were lucky to win one game. You got some heroics from Eddie Rosario. You got some good pitching. So I'm not saying they didn't deserve to win, but you had to use a late rally to come back and kind of steal one. And then you just get beat in the next two. And it's a Cardinals team that, yes, they've been playing better baseball lately. Their offense has been better, and they're right behind the Braves in the wild card spot. They're a good team. They're not a great team. It's a team that you would hope the Braves could beat, and now they've lost 4 of 6 to them this year, to the team right behind you in the wild card race. So what does that say about you as the Atlanta Braves? You know, we've been sitting here thinking, you know, the Dodgers, Phillies, kind of in a class of their own, maybe even put the Brewers not in that class, but, You're thinking Dodgers, Phillies in a class, maybe Brewers, Braves, and a tier behind them. The Braves are in the tier behind that now. With the way the Braves have played since the end of April, and this series, the series with the Padres, the one they lost obviously in Atlanta, I think you can say that this Braves team is a lot closer to those group of NL teams that are hovering around 500, which is what the Braves have been since the end of April, than they are closer to the Phillies and the Dodgers and even the Brewers at this point. That's just the state of where things are right now. The Braves are more like a middling team in the National League than they are looking at being one of the best. And I think, despite everything that's happened, I think a lot of people, myself included, felt like the Braves were still among that top class of baseball teams in the National League, which would be pretty much everybody in baseball. That's not the case. They're just not. They're simply not. You cannot come out against the Cardinals team that, again, is good, but they shouldn't be where you are, despite the injuries, despite the rotation that you threw out in this one, and just getting outplayed. The home run ball was back in this series. There was a lot of home runs, 13 home runs hit in this series, 7 for the Cardinals, 6 for the Braves. 5 of 6 for the Braves were solo shots. 6 of 7 for the Cardinals were solo shots. But the home run ball was back, and pitching, unfortunately, just was not for the Braves. And again, you had to shuffle some things around with the Max Fried injury and calling up Bryce Elder. And Schwellenbach was okay. Both of those guys were okay. They both just got hurt really bad by the home run ball. But the Braves offense, you just can't trust it game to game. You just can't. I mean, their best offensive game in this series, they lost. In the first game of the doubleheader, they had the heroics late to come back and win it. And on Sunday, you push across 2 runs in a game started by Miles Michaelis. You just can't trust this offense. It's just frustrating. It really, really is frustrating where this offense has fallen to. Matt Olson's just a disaster. And look, I've tried to defend him, and I will still to a degree, but over 12 in this series, he's slashing 127, 210, 218 with 1 home run in July. I was hoping in my second half predictions that Matt Olson was going to come out of the break refreshed, ready to go, and just go on an absolute tear, especially with home runs back across Major League Baseball. Not off to a good start this weekend. Things could certainly change. He did only have 2 strikeouts, and he smoked a few balls that were right at people. So if you want to try to look positive there, he had a 109.3 mile per hour line out, a 106.2 mile per hour line out in this series, but 2 times he grounded into a double play and 3 other ground outs on the weekend. Got to get the lift on that baseball. And it felt like this all season really for Matt Olson. Yes, the strikeouts are up, the walks are down. That's concerning. But it's just that even the contact he's making, he just feels like he's a tick off. He's either right on top of it or right under it. And that's kind of indicative by the fact that his barrel rate is down to 9.9%. It was 16.4% last year. That to me screams that there's a mechanical issue somewhere in his swing, which on one hand is great because mechanical issues can be fixed. Other hand, why hasn't it been found and why hasn't it been fixed yet? But again, he's just a tick off, and it's felt that way all year long. It's felt that way for a lot of Braves hitters, but specifically Matt Olson. He just feels like he's a tick off the baseball every time, and he's just not barreling them up to an elite level. Yeah, 16.4% is elite. Maybe you shouldn't expect that every time, but he should be in the double digits. I know he's at 9.9%, so he's almost there, but he's just a tick off at the moment, and he's got to figure that out because the Braves have to have Matt Olson down the stretch for this offense to get going. It's also a little bit frustrating, Jesse Chavez and Grant Holmes letting some games get away from them late. Now, the Braves were already losing, but they were within striking distance, and then you give up some runs in the 9th inning that really puts things away. That's part of trying to navigate a stretch of 17 games in 16 days with no off days. You're going to see Jesse Chavez and Grant Holmes pitch some extra innings that maybe they shouldn't be pitching because you're trying to save that bullpen with this stretch of games that the Braves have. So frustrating weekend, not just the injuries, but the play on the field as well. Just really, really frustrating losing a series to a team like the Cardinals, who again, they're good, but it's a team the Braves should beat, especially at home, to prove they're in that upper tier still. It's what you were hoping to see coming out of the break, but it's more the same that we've seen for going on 3 months at this point. It's a 500 baseball team the Braves That's what they've been playing like for a while now. Next, we'll try to get into some more positives. The Braves did knock out a lot of their MLB draft picks, getting them signed, including first-round pick Cam Caminiti, who they get for slot value. We'll discuss that and more here next. I love sports, and I love them so much. I never want them to stop, but a lot of action is out right now. NBA, NHL seasons are over, waiting on football season. It's just Major League Baseball right now, which is fine for me. And there's almost MLB baseball action every day, or there is Major League Baseball action every day now through the rest of the season. And FanDuel lets the sports keep going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app, dream up any bets anytime that you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is looking to hook up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, daily. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's get into our Minors Monday segment. Not a lot to get here as the minor leagues are off the same time as Major League Baseball, which makes no sense to me. I'd love to get out to a minor league baseball park during the All-Star break, but they're off as well. So it's what it is. A lot of teams only played 2 or 3 games this weekend. A.J. Smith-Shawver, 3 2/3 innings, gave up 1 hit, walked 2, but no earned runs and 5 strikeouts, 68 pitches. He could become really key down the stretch for the Atlanta Braves. He probably needs 2 more starts to get stretched out before the Braves might call him up. But, if Max Fried is on the IL for an extended period, either way, I think we're probably going to see a good bit more of A.J. Smith-Shawver this season. So good to see him continuing to get stretched out. Just going through the list of top prospects who are actually healthy and playing. J.R. Ritchie making his way back from Tommy John surgery. Went 3 2/3 innings, gave up 6 hits and 2 walks, but just 2 earned runs with 3 strikeouts. Nacho Alvarez stays hot, 5 for 9 in the 3-game weekend with a double and a home run. The power continues to play and 4 walks, including 3 on Sunday with no strikeouts. I mean, the bat is there. He's doing everything he can with the bat. It's no longer, a really small sample size at AAA. He just continues to produce. Now, they played him at third base all weekend, which had a lot of people speculating, are they trying to showcase him at different positions? I can't imagine that they've all of a sudden given up on him at shortstop. And why else would you want to see him at third base where you have Austin Riley for a long time? So, I'm not one to get into conspiracy theories, but I think it's a pretty rational and reasonable explanation that they moved him to third base to give other teams that maybe the Braves are talking to a look at him at third base. It's the only thing I can really think of, because you're not doing it to get more looks at Luke Waddell at shortstop, which is who was playing shortstop instead of Nacho over the weekend. I can't imagine that that's the case. The only reasonable explanation that I can see is that they are trying to showcase him at third base and potential trade. So that's something to keep an eye on. We'll see, what comes of that. Well, maybe they'll move him back to shortstop. Maybe he's up by then. Maybe the Braves call him up with the Ozzie injury and give him a chance at the big league level where he's never played second base. But I don't think you're going to move Arcia off a shortstop with his glove there. But just some interesting things to watch there with Nacho Alvarez, who continues to hit. But could he be a trade deadline piece that the Braves are looking to move? If they're moving him, it better be in a pretty significant deal, in my opinion. Similar to what I talked about with Vaughn Grissom before, and I feel the same way about Nacho. I don't feel like Nacho's going to be an all-star. I never felt that way about Vaughn Grissom, but I feel like he's going to be a pretty solid piece that you need to come in and fill in for an injury or, perhaps turn into an everyday player. And the Braves obviously did good in that Vaughn Grissom deal, but it better be for something pretty good if you're trading Nacho Alvarez. Jose Perdomo, it was back in action as he makes his way back at the Dominican level. Only played in 2 games, was 1 for 4 with no walks and a strikeout. Luis Guanipa, he got called up with some other prospects to Augusta. He went 2 for 11 with no walks and a strikeout. His first 3 games stateside, I guess outside of the Arizona Complex League. Full season ball is what I was trying to get out there. Ed Gwinnett, Andrew Velasquez, 5 for 8 with a double and a home run. Ian Anderson, 3 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 4 earned, 4 strikeouts. Zach Logue, 4 innings, no hits, no walks, no earned, 2 strikeouts. He has a 2.93 ERA on the season, a 1.11 WHIP, 73 strikeouts and 76 2/3. feel like I call his name on here every week. Could he be in the mix to maybe get a start this year? You have to make room for him on the 40-man, as you would for Nacho, just to mention that again. But he's pitched really well. Hayden Harris, an inning and 2/3, no hits, no walks, no earned, and 3 strikeouts. He's been dominant out of the bullpen all season long. At Mississippi, Keyshawn Ogans continues to heat up, 4 for 8 with the stolen base. Lucas Braun, 6 innings, 1 hit, did walk 4, but no earned runs and 5 strikeouts. Patrick Halligan, 2 innings, 1 hit, no walk, no earned, 3 strikeouts, and a save. At Rome, Kevin Kilpatrick, 3 for 12 with a walk and 2 stolen bases. Mitch Ferris, another name that I think I've said on here just about all year long, 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, no walks, no earned, and 5 strikeouts. Blake Burkhalter, 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts. And then at Augusta, John Gill, another name that I've mentioned on here just about every week, but he gets called up to Augusta and continues to hit, 3 for 10 with a stolen base. Will Verdung, 3 for 9 with a double, a homer, and a walk. And Guillermo Diaz, sorry, I completely butchered that. 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no earned, 3 strikeouts. That's Giomar. You let me know how you say it or how it's supposed to be said. Apologize for that. But he had a good week at Augusta. And then at the FCL level, Carlos Monteverde, 7 for 17 with a double and 2 walks. David Rodriguez on the mound went 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, and 6 strikeouts. So again, not a lot to talk about. A short week at the minor league level. I did want to get into the draft pick signings. The Braves have signed their first 10 picks and 13 of their top 20 so far, including first-round pick Cam Caminiti that they get for $3.5 million right at slot value, which is just insane. The fact that he fell to Braves at 24 and they're able to get him at slot value. I thought we were going to have to go over $4 million to get him. That allowed the Braves to sign some of their other high school picks, and it makes sense why the Braves were able to go after some of these high school picks later on. They got Nicholas Montgomery, the big power bat that I'm excited about. They signed him for basically $1 million. That was $700,000 over slot. And then they get a high school pitcher, Ethan Bagwell. They signed him for $822K, which was about $500,000 over slot. So not only do they get Cam Caminiti, it allows them to go out and get a Nicholas Montgomery and Ethan Bagwell. And we'll see what else it helps them, sign later on as well. They signed a couple of their high school picks later in the draft. 12th round pick came in good. They got for $161K, and then 17th round pick Owen Carey they signed for $150K. Those are a couple of their other high school players. There's still the 20th round pick Eric Hartman, which I think is not likely to happen, but that's their other high school player still out there. 11th round pick Patrick Klowizy has not signed yet, an outfielder from St. Louis. He will get signed, but that's one that I'm really excited about. So just looking forward to that one getting done. 13th round pick, shortstop Colby Jones, a JUCO player with an Alabama commit. That'd be the only other maybe questionable one, but that's likely going to get done. They've also locked up their 2nd round pick, Carter Holton, for $1.347 million, which was $40K under slot. And they got the guy out of Indiana, Luke Sennard, for about $2K over slot. So again, Braves with a very good draft, and it really helps being able to get Caminiti, first of all, him falling to them, and then being able to get him at slot value. And nobody thought the Braves would is just crazy. They'll probably wrap up the rest of their signings, getting those guys in the later rounds for between 100 and 150K is usually what they sign for. But it's looking like it's a good draft for the Braves, at least getting these guys signed and getting some of these high school talents in here. So looking forward to seeing what happens with those guys and getting the rest of this class signed up. I did mention briefly earlier that with Max Fried going in the IL, Dylan Dodd was called up. We do know Ozzie's going on the IL. We don't know who's going to take his place. Like I said, it's probably either going to be Luke Williams, who's already on the 40-man, or it would be Nacho Alvarez, which you would have to switch him to, or put him on the 40-man and lose somebody. All right, news coming in here just at the end. Brave second baseman Ozzie Albies has a left wrist fracture and expected to miss approximately 8 weeks. So we got it in just before the finish. So hopefully you're still listening. That coming from David O'Brien of The Athletic, also tweeted out by the Atlanta Braves account on X. Ozzie Albies today underwent x-rays that revealed a left wrist fracture. He's expected to miss approximately 8 weeks. So 2 months for Ozzie Albies. You're talking about getting him back right before the end of the season. So there's your late breaking news as we close out the podcast on Sunday afternoon. Ozzie Albies out for 8 weeks. Reds are coming up. Didn't really get to preview that matchup, but it's Hunter Green versus Ronaldo Lopez. And Monday, that should be a really good matchup. Don't know who's pitching for the Reds on Tuesday going against Chris Sale. That needs to be a W. And on Wednesday, we don't know who's pitching yet for the Braves, but they'll be going up against Frankie Montas. So hopefully the bats get going. Hopefully Alex Anthopoulos can swing some trades to try to change the vibes here in the clubhouse for the Atlanta Braves that just feel like really down right now. Has to be really down with all these injuries that they're having. But again, still a lot of talent there. I still believe, as bad as things have looked, I still believe in this team. But we got to start seeing it on the field. We just haven't seen that enough so far this season. But hopefully that changes. I feel like we've been saying that a lot. Hope, hope, hope. We're all hanging on to hope. And hopefully that does begin on Monday against the Reds. That would do for this episode of Locked On Braves. A lot to get in here on this podcast. A lot of it bad, but hang in there with me. Thank you so much for listening. If you listen to the end, please leave me a comment there. Let me know. Let me know you enjoy the podcast. Let me know you're an everydayer. I do appreciate hearing from all of you. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Follow us on social media, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.